Reid, the wedding of Jemima and Charlie. What an unbelievably special day, and it's such a delight to see all of your lovely faces here. I'd also like to be the first to say a huge thank you to the Turvels for welcoming us all into your beautiful home. I'm Bella, the groom's sister. And it's my absolute joy and honour to be your master of ceremonies for this evening. I asked a few people what being an MC actually entails. They said, just be yourself, don't be too witty or charming, so I'll aim to be neither of those. Now that we've got our beautiful couple here, we're going to kick off the speeches before we dine. I first heard about Mima around 6 years ago after a particularly long lunch. Charlie took me aside from the family meal and told me with a look of absolute glee that he had a hot date. When I pressed for more details, he mentioned that nothing had been firmed up, no date had been set, but that he had to go on a date with this girl. I think I knew then she was a special one. They've come a long way since that first hot date, and I'm so happy to have gained such a fabulous sister-in-law today. That same fabulous sister-in-law is going to be kicking off our speeches today. So please, everyone, put your hands together for the woman of the hour, Jemima Bowker! Choose which box to stand on, but I'm going for the taller one. I had huge intentions to write a really amazing speech, which just hasn't quite happened this week. But the crux of it is that I wanted to obviously allude to how fantastic my amazing new husband is. And how grateful I am to all of my amazing family and friends who have done so much this week, month, year, forever really, to make today happen, because there's been so much going on and everyone has done so much hard work, and there's been so many things that I think people have done that I've probably not even realised, so thank you for all of that. But I also just want to kind of explain where we are and why we're here, because it's incredibly special to be able to have our wedding here at Furland, which is... somewhere which for my whole life has been incredibly special to me. Mum and Dad, or Dad didn't grow up here, Mum grew up here with Jay. That would be weird. Mum grew up here with Jay, and it's an incredibly special space where they got married and where Jay and Trina got married. I think the last wedding here was Jay and Trina's. And Jay alluded to it earlier, but it's an incredibly special place, and my grandparents were married here as well, and I was christened in the church, so it's just incredibly surreal and wonderful to look around and see all the people that I love dearly, that we love dearly, here for us, and it's just so special, and thank you for all being here, and that's all I'm going to say, but I hope you all have the most amazing time, and love you all. What a heavenly way to kick things off. Next up, we have a man who needs no introduction, but I'll give it my best shot. Described by his daughter as a car-obsessed softie, with an enormous heart, and the man who has the answer to all of her questions and any of her woes. Please give a huge welcome to the father of the bride, Tim Reid.
Mima, thank goodness you lost it. I thought I was going to be the first person. So we've broken that duck now, so I can get on with it. Lots of people have very kindly, well, I think it's kindly, been asking me how my speech has been going. And to be honest, I've been rather blasé about it for the past few weeks, and I just have kind of replied, well, it'll be fine, I'll just wing it on the day. But actually, it's a bit worse than that. And some people think I'm a bit of an adrenaline junkie occasionally, but actually, this is a bit like riding from top on the crest of the run. You stand, you can be full of bluff and bravado when you're 100 miles away, or it's 2 weeks till you're standing in that box ready to go down the run. But frankly, this is properly terrifying, standing up here right now. This wasn't helped by seeing our best man crying when he gave the speech at his daughter's wedding last month. So I really am not sure how this is going to go. I have, however, taken some good advice on the length of my speech, because clearly there are more important people speaking than me. But I've taken a leaf out of Churchill's book, who, when asked how long a speech should be, he said, "A good speech should be like a woman's skirt. It should be long enough to cover the subject, but short enough to create an interest." So I'm not going to spend a long time, you'll be pleased to know. I'd like to start by welcoming you all here. There's obviously going to be a lot of people saying this. It's clearly a huge day for us, and I've got a few very important thank yous I'd like to make immediately. Jay and Trina, Mima's uncle and aunt, who I'm sure you've all worked that out by now, but not only for letting us host the party here, but frankly for doing all the heavy lifting while Vi and I was swanning around in Croatia last month. It really has made it remarkably easy. Secondly, I'd like a big thank you to Charlie's parents, Paul and Mel. They've been a huge support. Perhaps more importantly, they've supplied copious amounts of wines and spirits, which frankly I see as a challenge to get through. And I hasten to add that the quality of the wine far exceeds anything I would have provided you with. Now, my real job is to take a short romp through Mima's life. We'll just start with the early years when we lived in Kippen, filled with fun and laughter, and it's very good to see lots of her childhood friends and their parents here today. Mima was a very inquisitive child, to the extent that it was incredibly boring because she normally asked questions about things she knew the answer to. But we were lucky because we had this lovely young Kiwi couple who was staying with us helping. They were on a sort of working holiday and ended up with us for a few months, and Kate worked out very quickly how to sort Mima out. She came up to her one morning and said, "Mima, you can ask me 6 questions today." The look on horrors on Mima's face when she realised she had to limit the number of questions. Anyway, about the age of 10, Mima went off to Ardbrek, where she got incredibly lucky with her peer group, and we're very pleased to see lots of you here today. It was an interesting stage in Mima's life because for a brief moment we thought we had a child prodigy in our hands. I began to think that perhaps a scholarship to big school might be a possibility. And it is somewhat astonishing how blind parents can be to the shortcomings of their own children. So we went off to see the head man, full of confidence, and thinking, we're going to nail this, save a few bob, get a scholarship. And he quickly disabused us of our views, quite politely, and said to us, "I don't think she'd find it a positive experience." So, to be fair, we did have some early signs that Mima struggled with a few subjects, and geography in particular. So, Charlie, take note at this point, because if you're hoping to rely on Mima to navigate you through Italy, maybe check a few things. We were driving down south probably coming down here or something, and we passed a sign to the Severn Bridge, and being good parents and trying to educate our children well, we said to Mima, where does the Severn Bridge go? Very confidently she replied, India. Anyhow, to her credit, she made it to Uppingham with a music exhibition, I hasten to add, where she fell in with another good crew. And again, it's good to see some of you here today. And you'll begin to see there's a bit of a trend emerging here. I don't really remember any especially noteworthy times at Uppingham, apart from going down for a lacrosse match. Now, in most families, this is not a big deal. However, her mother, brackets, Westernburg games captain, lacrosse team captain, tennis team captain, in fact, I think captain of anything that didn't involve academia, was very, very excited about this turn of events. So we duly set off for Uppingham, expecting great things. Has to be said, we were somewhat disappointed to see Mima hanging around at the back of the pitch, chatting and looking for someone's earring. Anyway, that was the end of Mima's lacrosse. She obviously worked very diligently though, and to her delight got a place at Durham. But before then, she and Scobie, one of her bridesmaids, set off on a trip to Kenya, where they were working with an orphan, looking after orphan children in Kisumu. You probably don't know where Kisumu is, because most people don't, and in fact her godmother, Ruthie, who's Kenyan, we told, sadly she can't be here today, but when we told her that Mima was going to Kisumu, she replied with a, "What on earth is she going there for? No one else goes there." So nevertheless, they clearly had a great time, including a sort of rather random safari with 12 nuns and a minibus, but that's another story. And then on to Durham, which was a huge success, and another huge, wonderful bunch of friends, where life seemed to circle, not only for them around for the Avenue, but I think most of the other people at Durham University as well. And it's great to see you all here too. Mima then moved to London, reconnected with her friends, and started her career in the food business, before moving to an events company, and before long, Jon introduced her to Charlie, and the rest, as they say, is history. COVID then came along, which was a bore for all of us, and she alternated between living with us and at Charlie's parents' house in London. Decided she wanted to do something in the gardening world and embarked on an online course with the Royal Horticultural Society. Did you ever finish that? followed by work placements at Great Dixter, Perch Hill with Sarah Raven, and then the kitchen garden at Gravetime Manor. She then went back to work with Sarah, and we're delighted that she and Adam could be here today. Mima. It goes without saying that I'm immensely proud of you. I might need a drink in a minute. I just love the seemingly effortless way that you seem to manage to collect wonderful friends wherever you go. This is the theme I referred to earlier, and it's clearly a testament to your good nature and generous spirit. You're a star. Quite a number of you were at our farewell party at Garton Cable, which I think was the last time I made a speech. And I told you to enjoy it because we'd blown your wedding budget. I lied. However, the party at Garton Cable was much more important, because that was when we met Charlie for the first time. To say it was a baptism by fire would be an understatement, but we quickly realised how special he was. No more so than when he came up to V on Sunday evening, when we were all on our knees after a long and liquid recovery lunch, and said, "Would it help if I made a risotto?" We knew then that he was the keeper. And obviously we couldn't have been happier when he asked if he could marry Mima. Charlie, it seems ridiculous to welcome you to our family because you've been part of the team since the moment we met you. We really couldn't be happier, and on that note I'd like you to stand up and raise a toast to a happy couple, Mima and Charlie.
so much for that. Now I get the pleasure of introducing arguably one of the most important people here today. My little bro, my partner in crime since '94, and one of the greatest people I know. I'm so proud of you, Charlie. You're absolutely awesome. The floor is yours, Mr. Bowker.
I think I'm in a similar position to Tim of not putting much rehearsal into this, so bear with me. I think all I can start by saying is wow. It feels really quite surreal to be standing in front of you all this evening. And I think there really is only one way to start this speech. So I hope you're ready to lift the roof off this marquee. My wife and I. Say the biggest heartfelt thank you to you all for being here today. It is so special to have so many people in this marquee that have enriched our lives in so many different ways here to celebrate our marriage. I would like to start off by saying the biggest thank you to Mima's uncle and auntie, Jay and Trina. You've been unbelievably thoughtful and generous to allow us to have our wedding at Furland. Jay, thank you for levelling out the lawn so beautifully and for turning to a new career with the title of The Mole Terminator, which became all the more serious when you sent us a message saying you had upgraded your ammunition to explosive traps. Trina, your garden looks absolutely incredible, and we're just so grateful to you and Jay for what you've done to get Furland looking so amazing. We really couldn't think of a more beautiful and special setting to have our wedding, and it's been such a joy for me to have the opportunity to spend so many weekends here and get to know you both so well, although I think you're probably ready to see the back of me. As everyone has said, Furland is an incredibly special place for the Turvals and the Reids, and there have been a lot of different weddings here. So to be able to have our wedding here with all of our closest family and friends is really so special. There have to be a few particular mentions for friends and family who have travelled far and wide. To Mima's cousins, Jamie and Bex, who have travelled from Australia and Singapore. Patty and Jamie flying straight in from Dubai. And Molly from Texas. I haven't forgotten you, Patch and Kay, don't worry. I think a special mention has to go to Patch and Kay, who have flown in from Nairobi, having only recently seen their dear son Felix into the world. So it's so special to have you all here. Although not from across the world, I would like to say how special it is to have my granny be here with us today. Granny, you look so wonderful, and it means so much for us to have you here. Although we have almost everyone with us here today, there are just a few that sadly weren't able to be here. My other granny sadly couldn't make it today, but she's very much here with us in spirit, and will no doubt be sat on her sofa in Wandsworth with her dog Cece raising a glass of red to us all. Mine, I know your grandparents will be so proud of you for the kind, caring person you are, and looking so unbelievably beautiful. God, I'm the one going now. I certainly know that my grandfathers will be saying to each other, Charlie's a bloody lucky boy, isn't he? So my good dear godfather Ashley, I think about you lots, and we're so lucky to have your gorgeous wife Sam here with us today. Tim and Bean, thank you for your unbelievable generosity for making today possible. It really is a dream come true. Can't even talk now. To be marrying your daughter. Of course, a house in Croatia had nothing to do with it. And to have the opportunity to have so many special people under one roof today with us is amazing. So thank you. Amazingly welcoming to me ever since Myra and I started going out back in 2018. I remember so clearly meeting you both for the first time when I came up to Scotland for your karting caber farewell. Nervous chap as any would be for meeting his girlfriend's parents for the first time. There was me initially thinking that it would be a quiet weekend meeting you both. Mine would then break the news that on top of that, I would also be meeting 300 of yours, Mima's and Finn's friends that weekend. The ultimate litmus test, one might say, but I think it's safe to say I passed. I certainly came away from that weekend knowing what a special family you are. Thank you for welcoming me into your family with such open arms. I couldn't be happier to be able to call you my mother and father-in-law. My mum and dad. God, here we go. Thank you for all your generosity and making this wedding so special. I think it's safe to say that we certainly aren't going to be running out of alcohol this evening. I'm not sure words can really describe how grateful I am for your love and support over the last 29 years. Allowing me to forge my own path, with guidance of course, and helping me throw some amazingly fun, rosé-filled Bowker brunches at home. Children running their own business can't be the most relaxing thing. And you probably think on a daily basis, why didn't Charlie bloody stay in financial PR? But you really have been and still are so supportive in all we do. You provide a constant stream of advice, entertainment, and Negronis, of course. You've been the best role models that I could ever ask for, and if Myra and I are lucky enough to have children and raise them in the way that you have Bella and me, and Tim and Bea have raised Myra and Finn, then we'll be doing something right. Finn and Jill, thank you for being the best brother and sister-in-law that I could ever ask for. We've had so much fun together over the past 5 years or so, and I feel lucky to be able to call you family now. And to be able to officially become Uncle Charlie to your darling daughter Tilda, it's just the best feeling. And I think a special mention has to go to Tilda for her immaculate flower Duke Girl duties in the church. I can't wait for many more fun years to come with you all, whether that be in Croatia, Edinburgh, or wherever we end up. Bella B, where is she? There she is. Where to start? I feel incredibly lucky to have an unbelievably special sister. Your beaming smile and attitude to life is so unbelievably infectious. Thank you for being a constant stream of entertainment, advice and love over the past 29 years of my life. I'm so proud of all you're doing with your business, so Bella, and I have no doubt that you'll take it to great heights. Thank you for being the best sister I could ask for, and I can't wait for many happy times with you and John. On the roll of Bella's business, you may have noticed you will have an embroidered napkin. These are all being done by hand by Bella, blood, sweat and tears put into it.
You saw it?
Yeah. And it's a small present from Myra and me to you all. So please remember to take your napkins home with you. And Maximum Teeth, it's not an opportunity to mind sweep and sell them on eBay. Bella, thank you so much for all your incredible stitching skills and for adding such a lovely touch to this name. My best men, George and Toby. I'm going to keep this one short because I don't know what you're saying after this. But thank you for being the two best mates that I could ask for. I'm never not laughing when around you both, and your constant advice and friendship is so unbelievably grateful. to me. That makes no sense. I need to go back doing this actually. Your support and help in the lead up to today and for organising Perfect Stag has been amazing. Thank you also to my ushers for your amazing support and just for being great mates. I wouldn't be here without you all. Anna Henson, where are you? Thank you for making the most unbelievably amazing wedding cake for us. It's a complete work of art, almost too delicious to tuck into, but knowing what a good chef you are, I think we're going to tuck into it. It's so special to have such a close friend to Mima and now me that made our cake for us, so thank you. To Sarah, Bear and the rest of the team at Perch Hill, thank you so much for allowing us to pick flowers from Perch Hill and have them at our wedding. They look absolutely unbelievable, and it's so special to have them come from a place that Mima has enjoyed working out so much for the last 2 years or so. Thank you very much. Just before I move on to the most important person in the room, I also just wanted to take a moment to say how amazing the Maid of Honour and bridesmaids, Annabelle, Alice, Maud and Alice look. You've been such an amazing constant support and source of laughter for Mima. It's been such a joy for me to become such close friends with you all. I know how grateful Mima is for all your help to get here today. To my wife, Jemima. My God, you look absolutely unbelievable. Today is without doubt the happiest days of my life. Marrying you and now standing up here as your husband at Furland in front of our closest family and friends makes me dance with happiness inside. Mima and I first met as fresh-faced young adults on the 17th of December 2017 at a dinner party at Iona McCarty's house. Unintentionally did Iona know she was setting us up. The following day, I sent a message to Iona that read something along the lines of, "Has Jemima from the other night got a boyfriend? She's right up my street." Once I plucked up the courage to ask Mima on a date, the rest was history. From the time I first met Mima, and certainly after our first date, I knew she was special. It became all the more apparent after my dad met her for the first time, and as she left my parents' house, Dad gave me that look that said, "Don't cock this one up, John." Mimes, the last 5.5 years have been the biggest and best adventure. From being dragged into a rather dodgy looking jazz bar in Soho called Jazz After Dark in the early hours, to enjoying many meals together or holidays, I'm at my happiest when with you. You're the most selfless, compassionate person I know. You put everyone before yourself and never fail to see the best in anyone. You only need to look around the room to see how, here we go, to see how much you're loved, and this is a true testament to the time and value you put into your friends and family. It really is no surprise that anyone who meets you for the first time falls in love with your kind, caring and fun-filled attitude to life, and then usually proceed to come up to me and tell me I'm punching. But I'm okay with that. You'll love for making lists as long as the Bayer tapestry will forever keep me organised. Your love for a good old panic will continue to keep me on my toes, and your burning desire to know absolutely every detail of a weekend away, down to what I wore at every stage of that weekend, will never fail to make me feel like the most important person in the world. Don't stop being you, Mimes. Now that I stand up here as a married man to the now Jemima Bowker, I thought it would only be fair to round things off by telling you about a rather stressful time for me in the lead up to proposing to Mima. All of which at the time Mima was completely oblivious about. The engagement had been meticulously planned for the 5th of February 2022. A lovely Airbnb had been booked and a mega lunch at the Fordwich Arms all organised. What's missing, you might ask? The ring. Well, in the week that we were due to go away, I got a call saying that the ring sadly wouldn't be available for that weekend. I thought to myself, I couldn't possibly cancel the weekend, so I'll just have to position it as a late birthday present. After a lovely 2-hour walk to the pub, and me thinking the whole walk that I should have been proposing that weekend, we got stuck into a long lunch in true style. After a few delicious bottles of wine, a truly memorable lunch, we decided to round things off with a Negroni. Of course, a Negroni is the perfect catalyst to start talking about life and the years to come. It was all going so well, and then suddenly, Mima says, I know our friends are starting to get married, but I just don't feel like we've got our ducks in a row. As you can imagine, I suddenly went from being naturally incredibly pale to ghost-like. The Negroni went down quicker than you could say it up, and all I could think was, thank God the ring wasn't ready. Writing this speech and laughing back at that story got me thinking about the act of one getting their ducks in a row, and how really it's a trickier process than initially meets the eye. First you have to decide what life goals constitute a duck, and then you have to agree how best they should be arranged. Should they be lined up bill to tail, or maybe side by side? Mimes, whatever we decide our ducks should be, and whenever and however they line up, there is no one I'd rather go on the journey of life with. We will no doubt meet some bumps in the road, but as far as I'm concerned, we've got 2 golden ducks lined up firmly. One being the first one being the engagement, even if I did nearly have to force that in line, and then the second one by getting married today. Thank you for being my best friend, biggest supporter, and constant source of joy for me. Joy for me and everyone else around you. I can't wait for the adventure we have ahead of us, starting with tonight and then our honeymoon. I love you so much. Will you all please join me in raising a glass to my beautiful wife, Mima.
Comes from 2 of Charlie's closest people. I wanted to introduce the best men by asking them each to describe the other. Unfortunately, George lived up to Toby's description of him, impossibly elusive, by not replying to me, so you'll have to go without. In all seriousness, these 2 have been absolute constants in Charlie's life. They provided years of joy and laughter, and I know they'll continue to support him and Mima for many years to come. Please welcome the best men, George and Toby.
I got the taller one. Are you going to be the same height? Yes. Yes. No, maybe you should. Maybe you should drink. Thanks. Move this back then. Say what? There we go.
Dumb and dumber.
Good evening, everybody. It's my great honour to stand here today alongside Toby as Charlie's joint best man. It really has been well covered already, but I'd like to say some very quick final thank yous from the 2 of us. Firstly, to Jay and Trina, yet again. Thank you for letting us invade and spend this weekend at your amazing home. We're all incredibly lucky to be here. Tim and V, what can we say? Apart from the rain at the church, everything has been perfect. Mel and Paul. Mine and Toby's gratitude extends far beyond this evening. Beyond the countless long lunches, infamous brunches, incredible food and endless support and love. Your hospitality is unrivaled, and we will be forever grateful. I'd like to begin by commending Charlie on his carefully thought out choice of best men. Between us, we've known Charlie his entire life. I covered the first part, attending his first birthday party, going to primary school together, and even having my first sleepover at his house. Then,
You didn't mention that.
we were probably 3. Then, after 20 years, we met Tobes. And if our livers can stand the just one more drink that Charlie always insists on, I have no doubt that we will be lifelong friends. So you might think that it was out of love that we are both standing up here today. But planning the stag revealed Charlie's more tactical decision. He'd made many unsubtle hints in the past that his ideal stag might look something along the lines of a long lunch at the River Cafe before heading home for an early night. This is right up my street, so I drew up a list of restaurants. We needed somewhere with a private room big enough for 15 people, and rules relaxed enough to allow in both Max Monteith and George Fleming. It was more restricting than you might think. Tobes, on the other hand, totally misread the brief and booked Limotech, a limousine company who specialise in stretch Hummers. Unfortunately, the pink Hummer was already reserved for an Asian wedding, so we settled on white. As you can see, Charlie's decision of best men had less to do with love, but more to do with who would best service his needs. For me, I could fulfill his love of long lunches, and Tobes, his secret love of bad taste.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Toby. I've known of Charlie for the past 8 years. I say of because the first time I saw or heard about Charlie wasn't actually the first time I met him. When I first came to London and became good friends with George, I kept hearing of this Charlie Bowker, but had no idea who it was, only that he was a friend currently working in Singapore. I first in fact saw Charlie on Instagram. George uploaded a picture of this guy at the Hope pub in Wandsworth, dressed head to toe in an Armani suit, a Longchamp suit bag, with multiple what looked like Louis Vuitton suitcases behind his side, and a beer in hand. George's caption of this guy's arrival home was, "You can take the boy out of Singer, but you can't take the beer out of the boy." Hashtag Mr. Worldwide. Hashtag Slicker. Once I stopped thinking how dreadful the caption was, I thought, who the hell is Mr. Worldwide? The first time we actually met in person, Charlie recounted for my best man speech, and I don't come off too well. But just like his stag, it included a stretched Hummer and a few too many gin and tonics, so we'll swiftly move on. But it's safe to say, if you had told me back then, I'd be standing here 8 years later as one of his best men, I would laugh you out the door. When George and I sat down to write the speech, we went back over the time we'd both spent with Charlie, and what we realised is that throughout Charlie's life, one of us has been by his side the entire time. I think it would be fair to say that we've been babysitting Charlie for his entire 29 years of existence. Ellen Paul's reliance on our babysitting services became so great, in fact, that we moved into 90 St Anne's Hill on separate occasions and became his live-in nanny for a combined 2 years or so. I think their biggest concerns at the time were getting his £2,000 a year Uber bill under control and making sure that his habit of getting in from a night out at 151 at 4 a.m. when his Uber was collecting him for work at 5 a.m. wouldn't affect his high-flying role as sector analyst at financial PR firm Tolkien.
It's true. On separate occasions, we both spent years living under Mel and Paul's roof. In fact, Paul told me last night exactly how many years, but we won't go into that. Whilst finding grown-up childcare for Charlie was clearly a motivation, it would be wrong of me not to tell the full story. After a year of living in London, Charlie convinced Mel and Paul to let me move in. At the time, we'd never agreed a length of tenancy. And I have a feeling that if you ask Paul in private later, he might just admit that that was the biggest mistake he's ever made. But from a hazy memory, while I was living there, I had 3 different jobs. Somewhere in the region of 80 Sunday lunches. 3 months alone while Charlie moved to Singapore, but it kept me on as an only child. And enough time for the four of us to watch 19 seasons of Grey's Anatomy. As far as I could see, the arrangement was perfect. Bella had already left home, the guest room was empty, and I'd found a new family in London with a considerably more exciting wine cellar than my parents at home. On the subject of Singapore, I'd like to tell a quick story which no doubt Caroline, at the back of the room here, Charlie's aunt, remembers quite clearly. This was an amazing opportunity for Charlie, a chance to work abroad and a feather in his corporate cap. But more importantly, it was the perfect opportunity for Lara Warburton, Bella and myself to go on holiday. We flew out and stayed with Mel's brother and his family, who were the temporary Charlie minders. They took us out for a bottomless champagne brunch at a fancy 5-star hotel overlooking the sea. Now, there wasn't a big drinking culture in Singapore compared to London, and although Charlie's chiseled jaw was all the sharper for it, it didn't stand him in good stead that day. After a long and liquid brunch, we moved to a very cool beach club directly below the hotel. Now, Charlie's always had a love-hate relationship with the sun, so while I went for a swim, Charlie found shade beneath the canopy of the bar for yet again one more drink. Without going into too much detail, it was shocking what followed. First, a round of shots, then almost immediately, a total redecoration of our table, and even worse, poor Caroline's dress. Joking aside, living with the Bowkers are my fondest memories of London. But there was one moment, arguably more pivotal than all of the others put together. Through a mutual friend, Charlie and I were introduced to a man called Anthony Wards Thomas. Little do we know then, but in a roundabout way, he changed the course of our lives. Anthony ran a successful removals company, and for some reason, which maybe even he doesn't know, he invested in a vintage Citroen and converted it into Aussie Tucker. This was set to be the disruptive new food truck on the UK festival scene, and all we needed now was a pair of naive young enthusiasts to get involved, and together they could revolutionise the food truck industry. Desperate to get out of our corporate jobs, we turned a blind eye to the lack of knowledge, experience, or frankly any training, and decided it really didn't matter that neither of us had been to Australia, and began working on our proposal.
Looking in from the outside, it was clear one of them was taking the prospect of a new job and career change more seriously than the other. George and Charlie had put together a pitch deck of their vision for Aussie Tucker with an aspiration that Anthony would give them their big break in the food truck world. It just so happened that Anthony lived close to my parents, and as they were away that weekend, had asked me to look after their ageing dog, who wasn't going to be with us much longer. So it made sense for George and Charlie to stay before their big pitch on Monday. After a fun weekend, Sunday came around, and these two spent hours going over this deck. Checking the financials, and making sure all the T's were crossed and the I's were dotted ahead of Monday morning. Once finally finished, we settled into a late Sunday lunch where someone got a little carried away, tucked into a few too many bottles of red wine and 1 or 2 Negronis. At this point, we thought it best we headed to bed so they could salvage any hope of feeling fine in the morning, much to Charlie's disappointment, he thought one final Negroni wasn't going to hurt. Saying goodnight to both George and Charlie, I went to lock up before heading up myself. But walking back past the kitchen, I was surprised to see the lights still on. Heading back in to see why, I was shocked at the scene before me. I first saw my ailing dog sleeping peacefully in his basket, and then not too far from him was the start of a red wine, Negroni and roast chicken trail that went across the length of the kitchen floor, over the island, up the cabinet, and finally ended at Charlie with his head over the sink looking a little worse for wear. Before I could ask what the hell had happened, he looked up at me with watering, bloodshot eyes and slurred, "It was the dog." that when dogs can hardly walk, it's highly unlikely they can do gymnastics across the pitch. I have absolutely no idea how these two pulled off their pitch the next day, but they must have said something right, because it started a very exciting chapter in both of their lives.
New careers underway and trying to live up to our over-ambitious pitch deck. In the summer of 2017, we secured a small festival in Oxfordshire. Our big break, or so we thought. Not exactly Glastonbury, but 30,000 hungry festival goers nonetheless. When we arrived, we were shown to our pitch, the first red flag. Guided past all the other food traders, we went into what I can only describe as the forgotten corner of the festival. Much less competition here, we were assured. Also, as it turns out, far fewer people. Rain was falling hard, and without pause for 2 days. Morale was low. On the first night, we sold more bottles of water to wide-eyed teenagers than we did our precious barbecued rams. Eventually, we decided to cut our losses and close up the truck. No sooner had we made this call, the heavens parted and the sun came out, but it was all too late. Charlie had packed up and was found locked in the cabin of the truck, engulfed in a cloud of smoke, beer in one hand and a suspiciously large cigarette in the other. When asked what on earth he was doing, he simply replied, "Warming up." Aussie Tucker might not have been the success that we'd hoped for, but in a funny way, we owe Anthony more than I can begin to explain. Had we not been given that opportunity, Charlie may never have found a native. Now Charlie, your current journey will no doubt have highs and lows, but I speak for everyone in this room when I say how proud we are of everything you and Mima have achieved. Founding a business from scratch is something only a few people have the drive, determination and energy to do. Establishing supply chains with India, raising investment, building a team and still finding time to be constantly available to your friends. I have a lot to learn from you and I can't wait to see what comes next.
Now, you may have been to weddings where the best man or men speak about the groom's past relationships or past flings, and everyone sits there and cringes and finds it inappropriate. So we really had to think about whether to include some stories about Charlie's dating history. Luckily, we didn't need to think for too long, as the reality with Charlie is that there isn't much history to go on, and the history that is there cannot be classified as successful. 2 times of note that Charlie did dip his toe into the world of dating. I think it's fair to say they ended rather disastrously. The first girl Charlie wanted to take on a date, he thought that tickling her in her side for most of the evening was the way in. And whilst he found this absolutely hilarious, she did not. And the evening ended rather abruptly and never to be seen again. The second, it transpired, wasn't interested in men at all. So for poor Charlie, that was flawed from the start. Clearly, Charlie was saving up his ultimate dating game only for someone extremely special, and he decided the time had come to unleash everything he had in January 2018 when he met what can only be described as the best thing that's ever happened to him. I'm of course talking about the incredible, the beautiful Jemima Kate Bowker. We could not think of a more well-qualified and experienced babysitter of Charlie to be taking over the reins as his minder for good. We are not sure how much Mel and Paul are paying you, but it must have been a hell of a pay rise than what George and I were offered if you're taking him on for life. I first heard about Mima when Charlie mentioned he'd been messaging someone after Yon's dinner party, and it wasn't too long after that I got a message saying, "Tobes, what are you doing this evening? I'm going for a first date with Mima. Are you free for a couple of sharpeners to calm the nerves?" This couple of sharpeners turned into 5 pints, and off he stumbled to meet Mima, which was evidently a successful evening bar hopping around Soho, and not long after they became inseparable. I must admit, it did take me by surprise quite how quickly they became so well suited and on the same page, especially when it came to their mutual love of food, early nights, and home comforts. I came to realise this through a chance observation at a party not long into their relationship. It was only about 9:30, and clearly exhausted with the socialising and feeling rather peckish, I watched Mima walk up to Charlie and whisper in his ear, "Charlie, Mama's hungry." Without second thought, Charlie swiveled on his heels and has swiftly left the party. If that's not love, I don't know what. Mima, you look absolutely stunning today. And we cannot think of a more perfect and wonderful person to be marrying our best friend. You bring so much joy and happiness into his life, and the unquestioning love and support you give to him in everything he does is phenomenal. You're one of the most modest, fun-loving, kind, non-judgmental and generous people we and everyone here has ever met, and it will be forever one of life's great mysteries how on earth Charlie has managed it. Mima, we love you. Charlie, you're without doubt the most loyal, supportive and trustworthy friend to George, myself and many people here. Your positive outlook on life and your entrepreneurial spirit is something to be admired. And now, with your wife by your side, we're so excited to see where your journey takes you, and always know that we'll be behind you every step of the way.
Charlie and Jemima Bowker. We speak on behalf of everyone when we say what a special couple you are, and we couldn't think of a more well-suited pair. You don't need to be around the two of you for long to see how right you are for each other, and we couldn't be happier for you both that you're about to embark on a lifetime of joy together. With that in mind, will you all please be upstanding to raise your glasses and the roof for Mr. and Mrs. Charlie and Jemima Bowker!